All right, welcome to tonight's school board meeting. It's Thursday, January 12th, 2023, 6 o'clock. And this is to tell you why the board of the 1887 building called the meeting to order and ask Mr. Todd to call.
All right. Mr. Gayheart.
Here.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Here.
Mr. Martell.
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mrs. Ray.
Here.
Mr. Scarrow.
Here.
We do have a quorum who will continue. Tonight's meeting was noticed for state statutes. Are you looking to speak under community participation?
I'd love to, if that's okay. Yeah.
Let me read this quick and then you're free to go. A reminder for any citizen that's speaking during community participation to complete the sign-in sheet by the door to accurately provide the administration with a name, address, phone number, email. This will help the administration with any follow-up if needed. Finally, the community participation period is an important time for the Board of Education to hear concerns, gratitude, etc. of its constituents. That said, prior to making any statement, please be aware that each speaker bears their personal risk. If anything they say during community participation in the school board meeting is defamatory, slanderous, or otherwise harmful to another individual.
All right.
Can you just state your names?
My name is Steve Perkins. And first off, thank all of you for your time for doing this and coming here tonight. And last week was my first time coming to one of these. And I love how you guys separated everything out for tonight. Because my heart does go out to the 40K teachers that both of my daughters went through, and they had a blast with them and they loved them. And I was not aware that they were not part of the school district altogether. So I think it's an awesome thing. And that one I'm definitely voting yes on. As far as the other referendum, I think a lot of people do have concerns as far as where that money is possibly going. Because of course now in the world that we're in, we're seeing billions of dollars going all over the place and nobody really knows where it ends up or anything like that. Of course, it's, thank God, not that amount here. And I was very much concerned with the stat that you showed last week as far as where Elkhorn's ranked compared to the other schools in the neighborhood, if you will, as well as compared to the rest of the state from what some other people said. And I think we need to do better at that. In the sense of, I think there's different ways you mentioned going through and talking to the different representatives, which is very challenging when you're the only one calling. I don't know if the other people in the community know where Elkhorn is compared to the other neighboring communities or other places in the state. Because I think that's something that if more people were aware of that, more people would pick up the phone. I had a very few amount of time at home where no kids were there or anything like that. And on the day after, on Tuesday, I was going through seeing exactly who my representatives were, because I get confused with all this stuff as far as the different levels as it pertains just to Elkhorn. And I think it's one of those things that we need the power of the people to stand up and make our voices heard, to be able to be heard in Madison, because right now, you alone can't do it. You're only one person and they're dealing with every other person probably saying, hey, we need more money too. But if the whole community knows where we are, I think they'll be behind marching on Madison even. You know, I have no problem paying for a school bus of people to go to Madison and say, hey, we're getting the shaft over here, you know? And I moved here in 2019. And first it terrified me, but it took a pandemic to make me love this place. And, I know it sounds weird, but it's a COVID blessing. I grew up outside of Chicago. I've been in Milwaukee since I was 18, basically. So moving out here was definitely a big adjustment and a shock. And it is something that, you know, I do have 4 kids that are in all 30 different levels of school. I don't have the kindergartner anymore or in K4, but as far as Tibbetts and middle school and high school, and I do have a lot of vested interest, and I am concerned about what's going to be happening in our community over the next 10, 15 years as far as when they're in the school systems. I'm more concerned about my daughters than I am my boys because they're in that K5 and first grade. So, or second grade rather. So by the time they're in high school, all the craziness that we're hearing in the big cities is going to be here. And that's a concern that I have. And if we can make sure that the funds are going to protect all of them and that people are fully aware of where we are, I think you'll get more participation as far as people wanting to have a voice and get more money for our community in alternate means other than tax dollars. Because if corrupt cities like Milwaukee can get that much, I hope that our town's not corrupt. So in my words, that we could do it in a rational way in working with Madison to get us the funds that we need to be able to, get a new playground at Westside. Even though there are different playgrounds available, I kind of looked at that. There's online, there's $30,000 playground systems that size. I know a couple of guys that could, put it together and, a couple thousand, now you're at $40,000, saving everybody $30,000. But it's just different approaches, is finding ways and getting people to know. And I do request that everybody that moving forward, I see all the emails that we get from different teachers and different principals. And when you send out the emails and it's sometimes it's a long email to go through, but either my wife or I will go through it and then we'll kind of give the other one bullet points. But if people in this neighborhood know how and where we rank in that sense, we'll understand that, Also, as it pertains to solar, I know you didn't mention that last week. I bought a house that has solar, and we looked at kind of going off the grid and the cost and how long it would take to recoup the investment. And even if we disconnected our solar from We Energies and went into a battery backup, was just a ridiculous amount. That's something that the size of the high school, unless you get some sort of ridiculous grant from somewhere and basically get it for free, you're never going to get the money back from it. Just to give you a heads up. Plus, if something happens with it, you can't recycle solar in any way possible because it costs more money to recycle a panel than it does to just build a new one. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kayla, I'm guessing you don't want to speak.
No, I got a text.
I'm under reinvited 6 o'clock.
Oh, geez. Supposed to be here?
Welcome to our meeting. No, Dan, you don't have to be here. Sorry. That was.
So we got, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, how's it going?
Let me, give me 1 second, school board. I'm sorry, just so.
So the entire.
I know, I'm like, wow.
The admin team, I'm not expecting you to be at the special school board meeting tonight. We were having a technical difficulty with the Google Meet, and so I had to create a new meeting. But thank you, Dan Kill, for showing up right away. I'm short notice.
Dedicated, ran right over there.
You know what it was? I heard the beep, but I thought it was a deer on my trail cam.
Oh.
Kind of got old on that one.
They're like, oh crap, I'm late for a meeting. Sorry. All right.
I have to tell my boys that.
All right.
I'm obsessed with two kids.
All right, so there's only really one thing on the agenda. We've talked about it several meetings. Any more discussion? I guess I would ask for it this point before we go forward.
I'm good.
I think, if I were to say the one thing, I'm okay with proceeding with the non-recurring and then waiting the 5 years and see what happens. But I do think it creates a cliff in the future, another cliff. I mean, we're in a cliff basically right now, not really by our own doing, but there'll be another cliff in 5 years. And I don't know who's going to be here, but it'll be up to them to do it again, and that's okay. And I understand from the community's perspective that they don't want to just open it up for, might not want to open it up forever. But I don't know if it's going to change. But I'm okay with Christine. I think this is what the consensus of the entire board is, that we go that's the way I'm understanding, this is the consensus of the entire board to go forward in this way, and in that perspective, we can all support it in the community, is the way I'm looking at it. And I think that's okay. But I wanted it out there that I just wanted it on the record that I'm worried about it. Because
Right. And I want to commend Mr. Perkins for coming in and speaking on that behalf too. And as I had stated in the last meeting, hopefully that closing of the window at 5 years engages the community so that we can try to get some changes on the state funding formula. If we do nothing and we turn a blind eye, nothing's going to change. But by having a definitive structure closing on us and knowing we're going to have to face it again, hopefully that activates the community and raises some voices and concerns and does get a united front going to the powers that be to reinvestigate how can we do this. Because it sure is not an easy answer for Elkhorn or Burlington or East Troy or Whitewater or any other school, public school within our state. But I think the more we get our communities aware and focused on trying to assist in making the change, that's critical. And I think that's what's been done by taking the reoccurring out of it.
No,
Hopefully.
I mean, I hope that the state fixes it by then. I really do, because I hate to be in the same position. in 5 years. But if we are, then we'll explain it again. And move forward.
But if nobody's addressing it, no change will take place. So hopefully this is a force to get the voices to hopefully initiate change. Because if no voices are cast, it won't even be looked at. So I'm optimistic that this might be a way to engage our community.
People are going to know it's statewide, because as you can see, every school district around us is doing the exact same thing. So everybody's facing the same issue, and hopefully, if every school district in the state is facing it, hopefully there's enough voices that the state realizes that we have to at least do something. And I don't have the answer of what exactly they should do either. I mean, to be honest, but I wish I did.
I do think something we will have to come to terms with, and as a community, the paradigm as it sits now is the legislature giving that minimum funding to all schools, and it's an equivalent minimum. And communities, local communities, if you want more funding for your school, then you need to vote to pass that. And it's state legislatures currently, their perspective is, I'm not going to, from Madison, put a greater tax burden on your local community. They can vote to do that themselves. And so that is a different paradigm shift. But, even if they increase the money all around the state, which would be great, and if it gets to the point where it can meet our inflationary needs, we will still be that gap lower than everybody else.
Right.
And when we go to this referendum, just to give an example, all of our neighbors either have within the past year and a half or 2 years, or will within the next year be going to referendum as well. And we look at two of our comparatives that are similar sizes. Burlington's going for 8 million, Milton's going for 9.5, after going for 2 million the year before. Both of those districts already spend significantly more than us. And so it does, even at this amount, I think it's great. It's horrible. I feel bad. I was talking to Bill. I feel bad that we even have to go and ask the community to do this, especially when there's record high inflation. I feel awful that we have to do that. A part that I guess I feel good about is that we're going and asking for 2 million less than Burlington and 3.5 million less than Milton, and we can make it work.
Well, and ultimately it's for the kids.
Yeah, at least in that forecast. But the other side of that is their gap on their resources that they have, comparatively speaking, will just get greater. So there's a part of a little bit of enviousness on that side.
I am proud of the fact, though, that we are one of the lowest funding districts in the state and one of the highest performing. That's something to be very proud of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't necessarily have to be the highest. We don't have to have the most money in the school.
Right.
We don't need it because we know how to manage it properly. We know how to create outcomes that are high. You know, you can be like Milwaukee, you have all the money in the world, but you don't have the outcomes that we do. So, I mean, and they have a lot of other issues that they have to deal with. But ultimately, you know, I'm kind of proud of that, to be honest.
Absolutely. And
And
I
I'm
would
proud
just,
of our staff for being
Yeah.
able to do that. Because it's not anything that I did or any of us, you know, it's the staff. Jason asked me, you know, we had those meetings recently that he had with all of us. You know,
Yes.
I don't know what everybody else said, but Jason, one of the first question that Jason asked me is, what is the strength of this district? And I said, the staff. So,
Agreed. Pretty strong.
So in order to move forward, we need the formality of the actual resolutions passed or read in the motion.
All right, I'll move to approve the resolution authorizing the exceed revenue limit by $6 million per year for 5 years as presented.
is there a second? Authorizing the school district to exceed the revenue limit by $6 million per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes as presented. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Motion carried. Next one. Need for motion.
I'll move to approve the resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by $500,000 for recurring purposes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by $500,000 for recurring purposes as presented. Roll call vote. Oh, any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Motion carried. Final one.
I move to approve the resolution providing for a referendum election on the questions of the approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by $6 million per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes, and a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed the revenue limit by $500,000 for recurring purposes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution providing for a referendum election on the questions of the approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by $6 million per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes, and a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by $500,000 for recurring purposes as presented. Any further discussion?
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow.
Yes.
Motion carried. Motion to adjourn, anyone?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Good night.
Second? Moved and seconded to adjourn. Roll call.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
and Mr. Scarrow.
Yes.
Motion carried. We're adjourned.